If you want to get in on the action, we want to hear from you. Hit us up at Fade Route Podcast on IG, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in our DMs at Twitter at FadeRouteDNZ. Questions, comments, picks, segment suggestions, you name it. We want to hear from you. Get at us, in crowd.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy.
Well, it's a big show.
Welcome to the Fade Route
It's a big bad show tonight.
with DNZ.
Yeah, it's a big show.
Here are your hosts,
Crack it up, turn on them lights.
DNZ. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fade Route with DNZ. I am Z, and it's a huge show. It is our first birthday, our first anniversary. Woo! Happy birthday to us. I wanted to get a Carvel cake, but, I just forgot.
Fudgy the Whale, man.
Fudgy the Whale. But I was going to go for the football, but, hey, Fudgy the Whale would have been a good choice, too. First things first, we want to thank all of you for joining us on the ride, and we could not be more grateful to you for that. And we hope that year 2 is even better than year 1 was, and we will do our best to make that happen. On a more somber note, we want to make sure that we pass along our thoughts and prayers for those affected by Ida, tropical storm, and hurricane. Louisiana once again hit hard. The Northeast hit pretty hard the other night. Had some flooding. I know I lost power. So, it's been a slow go, and it's definitely been rough for a lot of folks. And there is a hero's tale that came out of this, and it is from Ricky Ricardo, not Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, but the Spanish language broadcaster of the New York Yankees, who saved John Sterling from being flooded out in Edgewater, New Jersey. Ricky Ricardo left after the Yankee game. John Sterling left first, tried to get over the GW Bridge, and received a phone call from John Sterling's compañera Susan Waldman, saying that John was trapped, and since Ricky was from Jersey, maybe he could go help out John and possibly save him from drowning. And Ricky Ricardo in his Jeep got over to Edgewater, New Jersey, and got John Sterling to safety before getting back home himself, reiterating the story much better than I ever could since he lived it on WFAN. So, well done, Mr. Ricardo. You are a hero to not only Mr. Sterling, but also to Yankee fans worldwide. And here he is. I've known this guy since our days on Carousel Shoes, flight crew through and through, the last QB in St. John's history. What's up, D? How's it going, man? Happy anniversary. Happy birthday.
Happy first birthday. And wow, didn't know how this was going to turn out when we first started, but I'm glad that we're here. It's fun. It's exciting. Big thank you to all the guests we've had that have been nice enough to come up on the show, all the listeners, and we're gonna spin it as long as we still get views and listeners. We're gonna keep spinning it.
It's time for the Fade In, where we give a nod to the trending sports stories of the week.
we're getting right into football season now, and that's really our bread and butter. We can even start off the show just talking about football. Mac Jones beats out Cam. Wow. I love Cam. I felt so bad about this situation, even though Cam told me not to feel bad for him. I still feel bad for him. What is next for Cam? What does he do? Where does he go from here?
So I just want to know, how did you translate that rune font that he uses? Because it looks like hieroglyphics, man. Like, did he send you like a little translation guide, or he sent a DM to the show. He sent a DM to the show. He knows I'm a big fan, and he knows I've supported him all from the 15-1 days with Carolina. Went back to see him play the Baltimore Ravens about 5 years ago. It's my guy, man. I love Cam. I mean, I was a big fan of him when he was in college. I mean, he's not my favorite quarterback or my favorite player, but I just always was impressed with his size and just his ability to take hits from linebackers and defensive tackles, and he's like that big. He's an athletic Big Ben, I would say, and I just feel terrible for him. I was rooting for him. He was on both of the fantasy teams that I won championships with. He was on those teams, either as a starter or a reserve. So, I just feel bad. I mean, I just absolutely.
It seems like the Tim Tebow conversation from a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
Are there 32 quarterbacks better than Cam? I don't think so. Are there 64 quarterbacks better than Cam? Definitely
absolutely not.
I made a quick list of teams that I think should sign Cam. Do you want to hear the list?
Fire away. I want to hear this. Let's go.
I think the Baltimore Ravens should sign Cam. I mean, he could be backup to Lamar just in case Lamar gets hurt. Whenever you have a running quarterback, there's always a threat of concussions or pulled hamstrings or them getting hurt. I think Cam could fill that role very well. Okay. How about Pittsburgh? Because they have Ben, but we think Ben's either done this year or next year, right? So
pretty much.
So I think Tomlin and Cam would get along really well. They have a decent line, good receivers, rookie running back. He could be the heir apparent, or at least compete with the heir apparent, right? How about the Colts? I mean, they got Wentz's foot hurt, got all these things going on. The Colts are ready, okay? So if they have a great line, right? Assuming Nelson comes back and he's good. They have a decent set of skilled players. They only got to beat Tennessee. I mean, right? I mean, Texans and Jaguars aren't really sporting that much of a competition there, right? And then my last one would be maybe Seattle. Maybe, right? Maybe. I just feel like he'd fit that culture very well.
He's an upgrade over Geno Smith.
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, it happened. He got cut. He's not with the Patriots anymore. But we talked about this with the Jets, right? The Jets needed to bring in a veteran to push Zach Wilson. I feel like New England only had Newton there to push Mac Jones. It was never a competition. It was more of, let's bring him in here. Let's bring him back. 1-year deal. Let him push Mac. But Mac is going to be our guy because we think he's ready. How happy is Bobby Hoyer, right? I mean, he's walking into the quarterback room every day being like, I got no shot. And then where am I going to go after this? Back to Cleveland? I'm sure he was on his knees. No, they don't want his bullshit. No, there's no way. There's no way the Colts are dealing with his bullshit. But I can imagine, if I was Bobby Hoyer, I'd drop to my knees and just like open up my arms to heaven. Like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, baby Jesus.
Well, you got to think about like what really failed Cam Newton, even if they wanted to keep him, was availability this preseason. Like if you look at Mac Jones's numbers, right? 36 or 52, 389, 1 touchdown, no picks. He played 107 snaps, right? Newton only had 21 pass attempts. 14 to 21, 162, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The numbers are definitely, I mean, in 39 snaps, that's pretty decent. Absolutely. If you're looking at completion percentage, sure, it's up there. But clearly Bill Belichick wanted Mac Jones to take the reins. That's definitely the case. And if you look at last year and what he was unable to do with Cam Newton, move the ball down the field. Cam Newton, his arm was shot last year. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Trust your eyes, people. He could not complete a pass downfield. It was Drew Brees level bad. So, can he catch on with another team? Absolutely. Is he better than Brian Hoyer? Yes, he is. Is he better than Jarrett Stidham? Yes, he is. But this is the way they want to run their offense, and those two quarterbacks fit how they want to run the offense better than Cam Newton. I don't want to hear that it's racially motivated and somehow, Bill Belichick is a racist because Cam Newton is not the backup. He has three guys who fit his system better than Cam Newton does. I like your list. The Texans were bandied about. I don't get that. I don't like that. It's not a good fit. I'll throw out the Dallas Cowboys. I've seen the Dallas Cowboys. They could certainly use a backup. Cooper Rush is your backup right now behind Dak Prescott, and we are going to order up the NFC East later, boys and girls, so we're definitely going to have more to say about Mr. Prescott. But you're telling me that Cam Newton wouldn't be a better fit as a backup to Dak Prescott? Absolutely he would be. The Chargers, wouldn't he be a better fit than whoever's behind Justin Herbert? It was Tyrod Taylor last year. Tyrod Taylor is now the starting quarterback in Houston. So cut Mariota, cut Peterman, sign him in the Raiders. Like go play for the Raiders. You're telling me he's not as good.
Where's Mariota? Is it Mariota in Oakland?
He's in Vegas. Yeah, he definitely is. He's in Vegas. Yeah. So it wouldn't be the first time that Mark Davis or Mike Mayock or Chucky have done something strange. It's the Raiders. It's what they do. I mean, even something crazy like go chase a ring. Go back up Mahomes. Go to Kansas City. Like, you're not going to play. If you play, it's going to be for like a victory formation. But you'll be there at the end. And we'll also be.
I mean, the only thing is I wonder if this is a pride thing. I wonder if it was like more or less the conversation was, all right, Cam, we're gonna go with Mac, and I'm gonna leave it up to you. If you'd like, we can cut you, or you can stay on as a backup. I wonder if that was the conversation they had, because I think Bill Belichick respects Cam Newton, and I would think that he would give him that option, right? And maybe that's the thing, is that Cam thinks he's a starter in the league, and he didn't want to be a backup, and he thinks he's got a better chance on the waiver wire. That could also be it.
That's true, and there were incentives within his contract that he would have earned $5.1 million if he was healthy and on the roster. Incentives could have bumped that up to $13.6 million. So if you're gonna, it's the New England Patriots. They're going to find a way to kind of save as much money as they can. We've seen this before. Another team, let's keep it hyper local. The Jets and the Giants, you're telling me that he can't be brought in? The Jets, they definitely love Zach Wilson. But to push him a little bit, your backup is Mike White. James Morgan is your third string quarterback. But you're telling me that they couldn't bring in Cam Newton to kind of refresh that room a little bit? And I personally would love Cam Newton as a backup over Daniel Jones, before Daniel Jones, over Mike Glennon. They're two different quarterbacks. That's two different ways to run your system. At least with Newton backing up Jones, you can run similar sets. Like, that is something that makes a lot of sense to me. And I know you mentioned the Washington football team as well in the past. That also makes a lot of sense from the standpoint of, Fitzy's also kind of mobile. Like, Cam is, it's a good fit. It's a good mesh. And also Ron Rivera is there. So I don't think that Cam Newton is going to be without his suitors. But I think I think it's definitely going to be more of a make good contract than something that could be as lucrative as $13.6 million.
Yeah. And I think the worst part is Ron Rivera actually said the Redskins are not interested. So he's not going to be going to Washington. But hopefully he ends up on a team. But another guy that's not going to be playing any downs this year for the team that he was in camp with is JK Dobbins. Tore his ACL. Does this prove McVay and LaFleur right about playing players in the preseason?
It's definitely in their favor. I mean, Rodgers didn't play. You got an extensive look at Jordan Love. Like, nobody played for the Rams, and injuries can happen at any given time. So it's hard to say with any degree of certainty that it's guaranteed that somebody would get injured if they played. That's just not possible. You can't make that kind of blanket guarantee because you can get hurt in practice. How many guys have had their knees blown out in practice and they're done? But Edwards-Helaire got hurt. He's coming back, but he got hurt in practice. He didn't get hurt in a game. So I get the caution, but I think it's important for you to take the hits and take the hits from guys who aren't on your team, and take the hits from players who are actually not just trying to vie for jobs, who actually have jobs in this league, because then it won't be a cheap shot. You had plenty of guys. I forget the training camp player. I forget what team it was. Cheap shot at one of his teammates, got cut. I think it was Seattle. It might have been Seattle, but that's kind of what they're known for up there. But my concern now at this point is for I know we don't like to talk about this because it does seem callous, but the next man up kind of mentality that is the NFL. The Rock now firmly relies with Gus Edwards. And I don't know if Gus Edwards has the capability to be an every down back and kind of carry that load. Gus Edwards is a decent running back. Like, this is not meant to be a slight on Gus Edwards. I'm not here to shit on Gus Edwards. You're a decent player, Gus. I don't know if you're an every down back. So he's got some proving to do. You have free agents available. John Harbaugh better be doing his due diligence of working out some players. You've had cut downs, so you have guys available to you. Now's the time to see what the Ravens come up with, because they are in a win now kind of scenario. You have the quarterback, you have the defense. It's time. And Harbaugh needs to make the right decision. It's going to be short term. We get this. Dobbins is playing great, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I mean, it could have. I agree with you. It could have happened anytime. He could have slipped when he was going to get a drink in the middle of the night. Most of these people actually do get hurt at home. I believe Dobbins only worked in on about 23 or 26 plays, and of those plays, he only actually touched the ball on 10 of them. I mean, come on. If Sony Michel or Adam Jones goes down in game 1 or game 3, they're still lost for the season. So I don't buy into players not playing at all during the preseason. It's unfortunate it happened. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I'm not of the mindset that this is a next man up mentality. You lost one of the best running backs in the league, one of the best college running backs of all time. We got to live with this. This is what it is. So yes, Gus Edwards can come in, but I had the Ravens as like AFC Championship contenders, possible Super Bowl contenders. That's gone now because you're losing out on. He was averaging 6 yards per carry last year. That's ridiculous. That means you give him the ball twice and you get a first down. I mean, and now
you couple that with Lamar Jackson, that's pretty lethal coming out of that. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's going to put a lot more stress on everybody else. But luckily for them, there are 2 running backs out there that do not have a job right now. Actually, there's 3 guys out there that do not have a job right now that you could easily take one of these guys on and they could fit in the offense really good. And that's Adrian Peterson, Todd Gurley, and Le'Veon Bell. So it's not going to be JK Dobbins, but they have the chance to fill the role and still compete for a championship.
No, definitely. And because you have quality running backs available, I wouldn't write them off just yet. I definitely need to see what they're going to come up with to kind of counteract the injury. But any of those 3 would definitely be an upgrade. to pair with Gus Edwards. And I think that you're not going to replace Dobbins,
Right.
but you're definitely going to soften the blow. Another guy, if you didn't want to put that much out there in terms of salary cap implications, if you didn't want to pay these guys that much, you also have a guy like Devontae Freeman who just got cut. If you really just want to have a running back by committee, if you don't want to give it to one guy. But if we're going to do an impromptu order up, who would you, of those three guys you mentioned, who would be number one in your list?
I'd take L. Bell because the reason why he's not on a team right now has nothing to do with his physical ability. It has to do with his antics, how he acts off the field, and things like that. So as far as his ability is concerned, I mean, he can run the football. And you bring him in, and you don't bring him in to be a starter. You're bringing him in to back up Gus Edwards. You're going to be our third down back. Le'Veon Bell is your third down back. You know how huge that is? Maybe even your goal line back. Give him an incentive and laden deal. And let's see what happens. One of the best things I liked about Bell was his ability to pick up the blitz. Not that matters for Baltimore, but he's a good player. And Todd Gurley would be my second guy, just because I'm not gonna run Todd the way the Rams did, and I'm not gonna have him out there as much as the Falcons did. So he might get hurt, but if I limit him to what I need, we should be okay. And the last person I'd say on that list is Adrian Peterson for me. And Devonta Freeman, I don't really like Devonta Freeman because I don't think he fits what the Ravens do. He's more of a West Coast guy. He's more of, I can catch the ball out of the backfield, I can run past people. Where Ravens we're north-south, we're rushing the football, man. We're coming down your throat. I mean,
we're AFC North.
Right.
Yeah.
We're shifty, but we're coming at you. And I don't know if Freeman's built for that downhill football. And Adrian Peterson, he's hungry. He wants to play. So you telling me Adrian Peterson can't be your third? He could certainly be the third down back, and we might be able to teach Gus Edwards a few things. But
that would be great.
This is something that the front office of the Ravens have to look into, especially the first couple of weeks.
Your favorite podcast has its own merch line now. Go to teespring.com, type The Fade Store into the search bar, and have access to our sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, tank tops, and much more on the way. That's teespring.com. Type in The Fade Store at the search bar and show your boys some love. Rep the Fade Route brand only at The Fade Store, only on teespring.com.
But one of the things the Jaguars did during cutdowns is they came out and said vaccinations were a main factor in their cutdown, which that was a big mistake because then they retracted that statement a couple of days later. But if vaccination status was a factor during cutdown day, big deal, little deal, or no deal?
Well, it's a big deal because now you have the Players Association opening an investigation into your hiring practices, also your decision making. This is one misstep after another with Urban Meyer. And this is the part of the maturation process that we were talking about as you transition from being a college coach where the buck stops with you and you are the program to now you are a spoke on the wheel, and everything you do is going to have repercussions, and you're going to have to face the music. So hopefully it falls on Urban Meyer. It's already fallen on Trent Baalke as well, because at the end of the day, he is the GM of this team. So he's making the personnel decisions. Obviously, Urban Meyer is heavily involved in the input, but it's a bad look, man. It is a bad look, especially, what's stopping people from a class action lawsuit? What is stopping the league and the players from doing that? So it's just not going to be conducive for his long-term success. I understand from the standpoint of unvaccinated players, if they test positive, one, there's going to be financial sanctions. Two, there's potential forfeits. Like, that is definitely something you don't want to burden your team with, especially a team that's rebuilding. Like, there are no expectations on this team. The only expectation is finish higher than Houston. Like, that's it, you know? So at the end of the day, it's just a bad look. And it was even worse that you said it. Like, it's one of those things that, okay, like, you can kind of brush under the rug. You don't talk about it. It's one of those things that's like, you know, don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. Like, this is what we're going to look for. This is going to be the make or break. And it's just another unforced error by Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. It's a big deal from a legal standpoint, and this could be really huge. I don't think employment can be determined based on vaccination status for any job. I think if you're between two players, and if in the war room, the scouts, the coaches, we're dead even on this guy. Usually the GM or the owner has the final say, and in this situation you want to go, you know what, we're dead even. This guy vaccinated? Yeah, he is. All right, let's go with let's go with the vaccinated guy. If that's the case, I mean, that's something you keep internal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But letting that kind of information out, that's tough. And, it's just something that makes a guy more appealing, right? It's more appealing if the guy is vaccinated, especially, I'm sure, during the year when teams are having guys come in and work out, they're probably going to only bring in guys that are vaccinated, because the chances of you bringing in someone who's not vaccinated to come work out your facility and then he contaminates the rest of the team, that's a huge problem, right? Yeah. I have a problem with teams doing this, but I understand why they would, right? That's the whole thing. I have a problem with them making vaccination, the final deciding factor on if they're going to cut a player or keep a player, but I understand why that's important, right? It's one less person that's going to spread this around, and it's also the best ability is availability, right? And you can rely on this guy 100%. To be available and not contaminate the freaking team. So, and you're right again, though, with Urban Meyer, another misstep. This is stuff that probably would get thrown under the rug at Ohio State or not printed at Ohio State, right? But here, these reporters are looking for the juice. I mean, they want to post anything. It was interesting. I've been watching Hard Knocks with the Dallas Cowboys, and in their last game they played the Jaguars. And when Meyer met McCarthy at midfield, they were exchanging pleasantries, and McCarthy asked him if you're having fun. He's like, it's different. He's like, it's football. It's football all the time, and it's not. I'm worried about people going to class and dealing with ADs. It's football all the time, and I don't know if that's good for Meyer, if it's bad for him, but we'll find out in the short term, because
we absolutely will. Now, my question is this to you. You hear that. How do you interpret that? Like, I know you're unsure, but like, you hear something like that, right? You're just like, oh, shit. Or is it something like, does that send off alarm bells that he's already thinking about leaving us? If you're bulky or if you're the cons.
Right. When I first heard it, in the moment, I was like, man, this guy sounds like he's in over his head. But then when I thought more about it, I was like, maybe he is a little relieved. But then again, I don't really know how much the AD and kids going to class really came across his desk. But I would assume that he was being honest in the moment. I don't think he's making that stuff up. So, initially, if I was bulky and I heard that, I'd probably spit out my water. But then when I would, probably going to bed, when I'm going to bed at night, I'm thinking about it, it's like, no, this is probably a good thing, right? This is good. He's going to focus more on football. Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't know, like, I'm of two minds about this. My first thing is that Yes, he's focusing more on football. He's one of the more brilliant football minds. And for him to focus solely on football, that's going to be very dangerous because we can actually use this to our advantage. And the other side remembers that Urban Meyer has resigned multiple times, citing health and burnout.
Yeah.
So, like, are you burning the wick at both ends again? But how many of, and then there's the third side of me, the cynical side, that's like, yeah, he resigned due to health, air quotes, and burnout, air quotes, but he was also under the gun of an NCAA investigation.
But he also won, though. He won.
Right. No, he's a winner. He wins at the collegiate level. No, I'm not going to dispute that. But.
So, it's fine. It remains to be seen. His team has looked like trash during the preseason. I watched 2 of their games, and Trevor Lawrence may or may not die. Defense is inept, and offensive line is worse than the Giants. So
that goes without saying.
So yeah. I mean, Carlos Hyde was the person who looked the best, and that's not good. That's not good.
No, not at all.
I don't think I saw Chark out there at all, and yeah.
You got a steady diet of Laviska Shenault, so you're going to figure out whether or not he's good. That's for sure. But you know what? Like with the preseason, like I said before, it's Diet Coke. It's a light Twinkie. Like, you can't glean a lot from it. Records, throw it away. I mean, the Lions went 0-16 under Rod Marinelli. They went undefeated in the preseason. So kind of take it for what it's worth. Individual position battles, you may learn something, you may not learn something. You may think you know something about a player and he gets exposed in week 2 or he gets hurt or, back to the Lions, you do something stupid and you cut both your kickers. So that's the preseason in a nutshell.
Yeah. I saw that. Dan's gonna go out there and kick the ball.
I mean, it is what it is. The preseason is what it is. But it's good that he's getting his feet under him and he's getting set. We're going to talk about that more next week in terms of what to expect. They're playing the Texans week 1, so that'll cure everything. Looking to break into broadcast media, web development, social media marketing, or filmmaking? Then CSB is the program for you. From day one, you'll be trained hands-on by industry pros like friend of the show Rob Adams, whose goal is to get you trained and get you working in months, not years. CSB offers 8 and 16-week programs in small class sizes designed to give you the personalized attention you need. If you can make it in person, there are 5 East Coast locations. If you can't, they offer virtual classes too. How great is that? And once you graduate, you become part of the alumni network that gets you to the front of the line. Trust me, I'm an alum myself. Go to gocsb.com today, request more info, set up a studio tour, and who knows, you may very well be on your way to a career in broadcast media. That's gocsb.com and tell them Z sent you. gocsb.com. Speaking of curing everything, no, that's not happening, because even though the Mets have won 5 games in a row, you still have BS going on in Flushing. How appropriate that they play in Flushing. Instead of This Week in Jets fuckery, it is This Week in New York Mets fuckery, as you have Javi Baez not only coming up with a signature celebration that mocks the fans, giving the thumbs down when he's really giving the middle finger, but you get your highest paid player in Lindor involved on it. You get Kevin Pillar, who became a fan favorite after coming back 2 weeks after getting hit in the face. You get Taijuan Walker laughing about it on Twitter, a little laugh emoji. You get Marcus Stroman trying to blame the media. And then the pièce de résistance, the cherry on the shit Sunday, acting GM Zach Scott gets arrested on Tuesday morning for a DWI in White Plains. What are we doing here?
Solid.
What should the consequences be for all of this?
I mean, listen, ownership had to step in for Baez, Lindor, Pilar, and the thumbs down situation. It's understandable. I didn't have a problem with what the players did, but if fans decided to retaliate, there would be a problem, right? The consequences are for Javi Baez, he's not getting a contract, right? It's just that he's not going to get picked up by the team next year. That's his consequence. And I know you're gonna disagree with me, but the consequences for Lindor is they need to start exploring trading him in the off season. Okay, if the thumbs down was Lindor's idea, he needs to go. If the thumbs down was Javi Baez's idea and Lindor followed suit, he still needs to go. The Mets are paying him so much money to be a leader in the clubhouse and a leader on the field, and he's yet to do either. I yield to you on the rest.
Okay, so we are in agreement. Baez, he's small potatoes. He's the least of your
Adios,
problems.
muchacho.
Goodbye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Just goodbye. You suck as a Met, and I don't want to hear this crap. A little non sequitur, and then I'll get back to this. Sarah Spain of ESPN. How dare you blame the fans, right, for stealing the joy of Javier Baez? He's a scrub. He has been a scrub for the Mets. He hit, 2 home runs. He made a sliding catch he had to travel 96 feet for, where if he was positioned properly, i.e. straight up at his position of shortstop, he would have had to walk out maybe 20 feet. Right? Oh, it's a fantastic play. Set him up straight up, and he doesn't have to make the fantastic play. He's been a net negative. You want to talk about Daniel Murphy being a net negative? This guy was the real net negative. Francisco Lindor, if he ordered this, even if he ordered the cover-up, you're gone. Sorry,
Finally,
buddy.
thank you.
No,
Finally.
No, you're gone. No, I'm sorry. You cannot do this. This is Bobby Bonilla 2.0. Except Bobby Bonilla got paid a hell of a lot less than this guy's getting paid. You cannot win a fight with the fans. This isn't Cleveland. This isn't Chicago. This isn't San Francisco. This isn't anywhere else. There's something I like to say. There's 49 other states, and then there's New York. And then, even within New York, there's the rest of it, and then there's New York motherfucking City. You cannot pull this crap in New York City. You will get found out. You will be punished for it in the court of public opinion. That is how this works. He went out. He did the right thing. Baez did the right thing. They apologized. This has to be it. It has to be done. Pilar, he's an ancillary player on this team. He's a bench player. If you wanted to get rid of him, you could get rid of him. He's had a solid year. I like what he brought to the team up until this moment. You can't be doing this. Taijuan Walker imploded after the All-Star break. He's finally rounding back into form. And then Stroman, how many more times can I be clear about my feelings on Marcus Stroman? The dude's a clown. So if any of these guys are on the Mets next year, I'd be surprised. Most likely it's going to be Lindor because he makes the most money. But you definitely can. I mean, if you find out that he ordered the code red, you definitely need to start putting your feelers out to see who will eat that money or at least absorb a percentage of it. As far as acting GM Zach Scott, that's a bad look. It is a terrible look, considering the fact that, we don't know exactly what he's been doing for this team, because Sandy Alderson is kind of the specter that is over him. We don't know what Scott is allowed to do. He went on that interview. He went on the interview with WFAN and said how the team was playing mediocre. I felt that was refreshing. He was honest. Oh my God, honesty, right? But then he goes and does this after pulling that. So there's a little bit of hypocrisy there. But he's interviewing for the job since he still hasn't had his interim tag removed. It wouldn't surprise me if he's gone either. But I'm hesitant to go after the big fish if I'm Steve Cohen, because Theo Epstein is that big fish. And who were two of his lieutenants? Jared Porter and Zach Scott. What say you on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mess. I've talked to some people that I know inside the organization, and some of them are saying this is worse than when the Wilpons were here. That's bad. That's bad. I don't know what's worse is that he was leaving a fundraiser Cohen hosted, right? Or put together, that you got that banged up that you parked your Toyota a couple of blocks away from the police station and decided to fall asleep. Are you what are you thinking? Why wouldn't you just, I don't know, Uber home? Or how about the Ritz-Carltons in White Plains? Why don't you roll up there and go to sleep there? Like, what's the matter with you? Like, you can't make a decision like this, and we want you to go out and find talent for the New York Mets to put on the field? He doesn't get a pass on this. I mean, it's inexcusable. I mean, if I'm responsible enough to know that when I'm leaving a place that I'm not going to fall asleep behind the wheel a couple of blocks away from a police station, I'm going to go to a hotel or have someone else drive me home or get an Uber. There's just no excuse. There's no excuse. Or how about this? Don't drink as much. It was 4:17 in the morning. I've gone to the bars in White Plains. I've left at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I've always gotten home without having any problems. Why can't you do the same thing? Is it pride?
God forbid, right, that he accidentally put the car in drive. And God forbid there was somebody walking down the street, How
about you don't have any friends in White Plains, dude? Give me a call. I'll come and pick you up. I'll drop you at my cousin's house who lives in White Plains. Like, seriously, there's just no excuse for that. There's no excuse.
No, there's no excuse for it at all. Absolutely not. None of these guys, it wouldn't surprise me if any of them were gone.
But you mentioned Theo. Theo ain't coming to New York. No way.
He shouldn't.
No way.
He shouldn't, and I wouldn't want him.
Don't even waste his time. It's not worth his time. You can't sell him on this at all. There's nothing here. Not the way this team is acting in what they had a 6 or 7 game lead. In July? Gone.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
The National League East, man, it's just like, it is completely like, we said it was going to be entertaining, but we thought it was going to be good entertaining, not like steaming pile of shit.
Yeah, well, the NL East is entertaining, and so is the Ben Simmons and Philadelphia 76ers situation. Looks like Ben wants out, and he's starting to sandbag the franchise. How do you feel about this?
Oh, man. I'm a chicken that Daryl Morey really needs to reconsider. His stance is, I want a star player and I want multiple first-round picks. The problem is that we all have eyes. We saw Ben Simmons' performance. You can't gaslight us on this, man. You can't sell us on the potential of what Ben Simmons can be for you. If you just give us De'Aaron Fox and 4 number 1 picks, or if you give us, name a star player and 4 other picks, you can't do that. Like, we saw it. Sorry, he's not a good shooter. He's not a great fit. He's a good defender. He's a good passer. He's not what you think he is. Now, you have 2 choices. If you're Daryl Morey, you take 50 cents on the dollar, and you call the Warriors Wiseman and a first. That'll probably net you Simmons. Or you suck it up. Like, you're gonna have to play this guy, and he's gonna have to come in. Ben Simmons is not blameless in this. He has performed poorly, and now he's put it out in the media. He needs to understand that his value is very low. So you may want out, but you may end up in a situation that is far worse than the Philadelphia 76ers, who were the number 1 overall team in the East last year. Let's not forget that. So he needs to play better. Morey needs to put him in a position to play better to increase that trade value. So maybe he does get the De'Aaron Fox and 4 number 1 pick package, or something from the Wolves. I think they want to pair him with Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, and they want to put a big 4 together in Minnesota. So, is he sandbagging the franchise? Yes. But can he help himself out by actually going into camp and improving the trade stock? Absolutely, because I'm sure Daryl Morey would be happy to unload this guy.
Well, I mean, I think the franchise took shots at him first, right? Because you had Doc Rivers come out after the game, after the series lost to Atlanta, and he really didn't have his back, saying that he wasn't sure if Ben could be the point guard on a championship team. That's tough to take. That's tough to hear right after a series loss. And then next you had Joel Embiid throw Ben under the bus after the series loss, saying, we needed to make big shots and we needed to not turn the ball over. We need to make free throws, and these are all things that Ben really did the last 2 games. I mean, this team was up big in that series, right? I think they blew a lead of 22 points, 16 points, and I want to say 8 points. Mm-hmm. It was a collapse. I applaud Ben for sandbagging them, and I hope he ends up in a better situation. But the other side of me looks at this and says, well, dude, we liked you so much that we gave you $200 million. The only thing we need you to do is just to be a good basketball player. Not a great one, just a good one. And shoot the ball. Make free throws. Simple shit. And he can't do it.
No.
From what I've gathered, he's one of Rich Paul's guys. He's a Clutch Sports guy. They literally want to go anywhere but Philadelphia. So I'm pretty sure this whole Ben Simmons on the 76ers is over.
But at this point, it's up to Daryl Morey, right? Like, the ball is in his court. Ben Simmons wants out. More than likely, he's going to hold out. You got to come off your stance, right? You have to come off your asking price at this point if you're Daryl Morey.
Yeah. At some point, he's going to. No one's going to give him what he's asking for, and it's pretty much a wrap. Like, it's the thing is now that everybody knows that Ben isn't coming back. Now, what you hope to get, divide that by like half or a quarter, because now we're like, well, you're gonna have to deal him. So we'll just wait to see, how little you're gonna deal him for. That's basically what's happened.
Yeah, and it's a game of chicken, and we're gonna see who blinks first. Calling all armchair food critics, from the creators of As You Eat It on YouTube and the Fade Route with DNZ on Anchor, comes a brand new food podcast series. As I See It, hosted by me, Z. We're going to delve into the world of competition cooking shows and break it down for you, from the delicious to the ridiculous and everywhere in between. As I See It, we're going to have a great time. That's As I See It podcast, available on Anchor, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Spread the word, spread it wide. Like, subscribe, and share. Listen to As I See It today. The wheel route. All right, boys and girls, it is now time for our NFL preview, and we're going to do it a special way this year. We're going to bring back the wheel route. That's right. I have a wheel, and I'm going to spin that wheel, and whatever we talk about, whatever we land on, that's what we're talking about. And just be ready, because I think you're going to be surprised with some of these topics. You ready, D?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. MVP of the league. Who you got?
They love giving this award to quarterbacks, So I'm just gonna go and say it's gonna go to Mahomes, right? That's the safe bet. I'll follow that up with Rodgers or Brady. I can't picture it going anywhere outside of that.
Well, you are right about that. There's definitely a quarterback-driven award. Aaron Rodgers last year. You had Mahomes. You have Lamar Jackson. Everybody that of note has an MVP under their belt. Father Time. It's not time yet. Tom Brady is going to take this one. I think he is going to rally around the troops again and drive them forward. And he's going to have one of the best statistical years of his career. And it sounds about right. It's Tom, right? At this point, that's what we expect.
Sounds about right.
The Tom being Tom. As far as dark horse candidates, I like Ryan Tannehill of the Titans. If they have a really good year and Julio Jones is as advertised and the Titans are what we think they're going to be, I think Ryan Tannehill could be an outside sleeper candidate.
Yeah, the only thing with Ryan Tannehill is I'm worried about the Titans. A lot of them have been hurt in camp, and they haven't really all played together. And they had a COVID situation too. So,
with Tannehill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see him win. I mean, it's great. I'd also like to see a non-quarterback win. Like, it's not all about the quarterback, man. There are better players out there. Like, give it to a running back, give it to a corner, give it to safety. Do something different. Let's change it up a bit.
No, I agree. Last year, we both thought it should have been Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry. Take your pick. At that point, take your pick. Even Alvin Kamara. Like, you take your pick. But it is what it is. And we understand that. Most knowledgeable fans understand that. So I think it's a safe bet to go with the quarterback. All right, here we go. Number 2. Big money, big money. Fantasy bust of the year.
That's easy for me. I'm gonna go Derrick Henry.
Really?
He's currently going. Yeah, he's currently going top 5 in drafts, and I just think it's going to be hard to have back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. So, if you're asking him to do what he did last year, he's not going to do that. If you're asking him what he did 2 years ago, where I think he had something like 1,500 yards and 15 or 16 touchdowns, I just don't think he's going to get that value. I think you can get it from a Tyreek Hill, an Alvin Kamara, guys, a Nick Chubb. You can get it from guys like that, which you can take, later than 5.
And it's a fair analysis, that's for sure. I also, just for transparency's sake and my thought process out there, I didn't consider guys like McCaffrey and Barkley and Beckham, guys that don't play and who probably aren't going to play.
Guys that don't play.
the guys that went number 1 and 2 in your draft that are not going to play.
Yeah, you're right.
Guys, it's time for a come to Jesus meeting. They're not going to play.
Right.
That's sucker shit. That is sucker shit right there. It's like drafting Larry Johnson 15 years ago. The dude wasn't going to play. So the bust of the year for me, based on guys who are going to play, and this may not be a stretch for you, Juju. You're looking at last year, he only had 831 yards. He had 9 touchdowns, which is great. I think that's going to fall back with a full year of a Chase Claypool that's actually, a known quantity. So I think that he got paid. So that's something else that we need to kind of see. And he's already a head case. He's already a clown. Did you see the video of him doing that stupid crate challenge?
Oh, no.
Yes, Juju did the crate challenge. So I just was looking to see if he Corvetted down, but apparently he didn't. He made it down, but that's the mentality of this guy. And
Tomlin
do you really
love that?
Oh, Tomlin must have lost his shit. If I'm Tomlin, I'm like, what did we pay him this money for? Who signed off on that? But
well, he's got 1 year. It's only 1 year.
It's 1 year,
I'm
but
pretty sure he's on a 1 year deal. He's got to really play well.
Yeah, but then that's the mindset of this guy. Like, I'm gonna possibly injure myself doing this. Like that. I'm sorry, man. That's a huge red flag for me, and I expect a huge step back from Mr. Smith-Schuster. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. First coach fired. Who you got?
This is a tough one. I think it's going to be Coach Zimmer for the Minnesota Vikings. And I hate to speculate on someone getting fired from their job, but again, just going back to looking at the preseason, I mean, Minnesota Vikings look like dog shit. Just god awful. Maybe even John Gruden. If they get off to a really bad start, like if they lose like their first 4 or 5 games, could it be it for Gruden? Yeah. So those are my two. It's hard for me to see anybody else outside of that getting canned.
Those are definitely possible. Zimmer, very likely. There were expectations for that team just as more recently as last year. So I think it's definitely possible. Gruden is Gruden, at this point in his career. So viable. I think, and this is tied to an injury. So if Joe Burrow does not make it through the year again, Zach Taylor's gone.
Really? Okay.
It was his opportunity. It was their responsibility to protect this guy. And that responsibility ultimately falls on the GM and the head coach. So it would not surprise me if the Cincinnati Bengals clean house, if this kid gets hurt again and has to miss more time. A more realistic, I mean, that's definitely a realistic one. But another one, probably Mike McCarthy. That's probably more likely because, again, as unrealistic as it is, the Dallas Cowboys have expectations, right? They're America's team, and they haven't been in the freaking playoffs since when? They haven't won a Super Bowl since when? But, it's America's team. And Jerry Jones might not put up with this shit he's getting older. His trigger just might be a little bit shorter. So
yeah, I just don't know if they would pull the trigger on Mike in the season. I don't think Jerry's the kind of guy that fires someone in the middle of the season. He waits to the end of the season. But, I mean, they were looking good with Dak before he got hurt. So I'm curious to see if it picks up where it left off or if he's rusty because he hasn't played. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and what about one of these, how would you feel about like a guy like Nagy? Like we talk about Nagy all the time. He's got a freaking winning record, but somehow like he's always on the hot seat. Same for LaFleur. Like would it surprise you, especially in light of the Aaron Rodgers thing? Would it surprise you if either one of those guys went?
It would because I have Chicago doing well this year, and like I said, he has an overall over 500 record, so it's hard to say if they even struggle this year with Andy Dalton until they put in the kid. It would be hard for me to see that happen for the first coach to get fired. And then in the LaFleur situation, the Packers have been in the NFC Championship game the last 2 years. Aaron's on his way out. You can't take LaFleur out now. He's supposed to be the guy that's going to coach this Jordan Love dude to be the starter here. We all listen to him, so this is his mess. He's got to see this through.
True. I mean, if you were going to do it, you would have done it by now. Just to appease Aaron Rodgers. I just hope that Aaron Rodgers appeased us by getting a haircut. But that's neither here nor there. Last one. Here we go. Your Super Bowl matchup.
Oh, man. So it's funny because I've been thinking about the Super Bowl matchup for like the last couple of weeks now. And up until I'd say about 2 days ago, I was feeling pretty confident in my selection. But now I've changed it, right? Just based on what I've, collected information. So I can take it a step further. I can tell you who I have in the championship games, and I can tell you who I have in the Super Bowl. And I have the Washington football team taking on the New Orleans Saints in the NFC Championship game. And then I have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Championship game. And I have NOLA playing Buffalo in the Super Bowl. That's what I have.
Wow. That is bold.
Yeah.
That is big. That is bold.
Yeah. That's what I got, man. That's what I got.
You're a swashbuckler. I appreciate that. That is impressive. That is impressive.
Yeah, just thinking a full year, training camp and putting teams together, and you're gonna get the best of everybody this year. And listen, I love Tom. I'm not saying Tom's not gonna make a deep run. I think he's gonna do well. It's just, when you bring back all the starters, I don't know how well that translates, because I don't know if the fire is there for everybody. Injuries could play a factor. And on the AFC side, I don't know. I think Pat Mahomes and company are great. I think they play really well. But there are teams that are catching up in different ways. I'm not saying they're going to, be able to beat them by 40 or go on a shootout, but you never know what happens any given Sunday, man. It's not always clear cut.
No, absolutely not. And that's definitely, it's a very well-reasoned argument, for sure. For me, for the NFC, I'm taking a rematch. I am taking a rematch in the NFC title game. Like, those are, in my opinion, head and shoulders the two best teams. The Rams the Rams are talented, but these guys, I know, I've seen it with my own eyes. They're not, they have to reintegrate Matthew Stafford into that team. So, the Rams are definitely talented. The Cardinals are talented. You have teams that are bubbling up, like you said. But I got a feeling we're going to see a rematch. And as far as the AFC side, this one's definitely hard, because you can take your pick of a bunch of teams that you can choose, right? The Bills, the Browns, a resurgent Patriot team, a surging Dolphins team, the Chiefs. Hell, would it surprise you if Teddy Bridgewater led the Broncos and that defense to the title game? No, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I actually think they're going to be. I think they're going to be very good. I do, because now I think Fangio has his defense this year, right? He's got the safety from Alabama. He's got Chubb, and he's got what's his name on the other side. They're going to be ready to go.
Yeah, and you got a healthy Von Miller. You got
That's what I'm talking about. Von Miller and Chubb on the outside.
Yeah.
You got the safety from Alabama. The only issue is they're going to beat each other up in that division, right? Because he's got to play the Chargers twice. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And he's got to play the Chiefs twice. That's tough. And then Oakland, we all kind of agreed they're going to be in the cellar.
Yeah.
But you know what you're going to get with Teddy, right? You're going to get efficiency. He's not going to turn the ball over. And you really just need the defense to stop people. And they're built to do that. So.
Yeah, that's why. It's going to be a hard-fought one. I've molded over a bunch of different permutations. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. I got the Cleveland Browns in the AFC title game. As crazy as that sounds, you think, Baker Mayfield's going to take a step back, possibly. He's going to be there. He's definitely going to be there.
He can't, right? He can't take a step back this year. This is his contract year. This is it.
He can't.
And this guy, his whole life has always come to play. He started out in Texas Tech, and he worked his way to get to Oklahoma. He went to Oklahoma, and he showed up. He was taken number 1 overall. So this is his time to shine. I have a hard time believing he's not going to shine.
No, I agree. And his opponent in this championship game, Lamar Jackson and your Baltimore Ravens. Injury be damned. I think they will plug that hole, and they'll still be able to get to that level. This is no slight on Josh Allen. This is no slight on anybody. I just think that if they're going to do it, now is the time. So you're going to have the Ravens versus the Browns, and it's revenge for the city of Cleveland. They're going to slay the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to be in the Super Bowl against the Green Bay Packers. And the Green Bay Packers are taking it home. I'm calling it right now. Like I've said a million times, a pissed off Aaron Rodgers is a dangerous Aaron Rodgers. And he'll walk off into the sunset with his middle finger in the air. That's just what I see. But what do you guys see? Hit us up. faderoutemail@gmail.com, Fade Route Podcast on IG, or slide in those DMs at Fade Route DNZ on Twitter and let us know what your picks are. Need a little inspiration in the kitchen? Want to try something new? Or maybe you just need a new YouTube cooking show to binge? Well, I have the answer for all three. As You Eat It, hosted by me, Z. I invite you into my home and show you methods designed to empower and inspire you in the kitchen. Cook how you want to cook, eat how you want to eat as you eat it. That's As You Eat It, available only on YouTube. AZ, You Eat It. Check it out and let's get cooking.
Order up!
All right, boys and girls, we are two divisions away from completing our Order Up.
Order up, order up.
This week, we are ordering up one of the beasts of the East, the NFC East. From 4 to 1, who you got, D?
Okay. I hate to hurt your feelings here, but I have the Giants in the basement. Just based on what I see in the preseason, this team is awful. They are not committed on Saquon Barkley, which leads me to believe he's not fully recovered, and they're going to really be limiting his snap counts, and he's the most dynamic player they have on offense. Their offensive line is going to probably be charged with murder halfway through the season because I think Daniel Jones is going to die because they're so terrible. And he just doesn't have people to throw to. I don't know what the results of Evan Ingram's MRI were, but he hurt his thigh or his leg. So Kyle Rudolph's going to have to step in. And I don't see good things coming from the New York Football Giants this year. At 3, kind of hurts me to say this because it's my fantasy quarterback, but I have the Eagles. This just comes down to coaching. I just don't think Nick Sirianni's really ready. It's going to take some time for him to get going. And they're just middle of the road offensively and defensively. I think Miles Sanders will have a good year. And I think Jalen Hurts will play well, even though I got a little nervous because they signed a backup quarterback, and Gardner Minshew. But I think they'll be okay. They're just going to be 3rd. I actually have Dallas coming in 2nd. I think Dak is a big question mark. His ability to play at a high level. And the defense, I don't know if Dan Quinn could fix everything in 1 year. I mean, we saw what Atlanta was last year. So, I mean, is he really going to make these guys play that much better? The only thing that helps Dallas is they're in a terrible division for offensively, so the defense may be okay, but I don't really have a lot of belief in their defense. But offensively, as long as Dak is healthy, they should play well. And number 1, I have the Washington football team, which is why I had them going all the way to the title game. I think they have the best defense in the league with Sweat and Young coming off the ends. They're going to feast on Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts for 4 games. And look at what they did last year. I believe I could be not correct on this, but in the wild card game against the Bucs, I believe the Washington football team had 3 sacks on Tom Brady. Tom Brady only got sacked 3 times for the rest of the playoffs. So wow. So imagine if they had a competent quarterback in that game, they might have won that game. And Fitzpatrick just needs to be magical, and this might be his time to shine. I think he has a better excuse me. I think he has a better QBR than Deshaun Watson. I think he's been more effective at certain points more than Tom Brady. So I think he has a chance to be the Cinderella story.
Good picks, but definitely, notwithstanding the Giants in last place,
We didn't do the same again, did we?
We did not do the same.
Okay,
no,
good.
we did not do the
We
same.
have a habit of doing that.
Well, only with the AFC North, because we have such our things.
It's predictable. Is that
it's either predictable or we follow it so closely. I like to think that we follow it so closely. We have our fingers on the pulse of that division. As far as the NFC East goes, last place, I have the Eagles. Their skill position group, it doesn't really excite me. Jalen Hurts doesn't excite me as a quarterback. Sirianni doesn't excite me as a coach. At some point, I think Minshew is going to play, and he's going to get an extended playing time. And if that happens, they're donezo. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. And this all boils down to the health of one man. See, you're coughing. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It boils down to health. It boils down to health. And that one man is Mr. Dakota Prescott. Dak Prescott needs to be healthy for this team to be successful. And I am not sold on that after seeing his leg pop out of his socket. And now the dude's got a shoulder problem. So, that gives me some pause. Number 2, by default, I'm looking at the New York Giants. And that is not because of Saquon Barkley, and it is not because of Daniel Jones.
And not because you're a fan.
It's not because I'm a fan. If I was the fan, I would have put him in the Super Bowl. Like, if I was an unrealistic Giant fan, it would have been in the Super Bowl. This division is the drizzling shits. So let's be real here. Wheelie, I'm not sold on Wheelie. Like, I think at some point they're going to end up signing Cam Newton. I think he will play at least 2 games as a New York Giant next year. And that scares the shit out of me. And as far as Saquon Barkley goes, what did I say before in our season preview? He ain't playing. So you're going to have to rely on Galladay. You're going to have to rely on Slayton. You're going to have to rely on Shepard. Rudolph. Ingram's a bust. Which is accept it. Move on. At the end of the day, that Giant offensive line is going to be the key unit because the defense plays. The defense is good. I think we can agree on that. But are they going to make the jump offensively to get them where they need to go? And things have to break right for this to happen. But you know what? Stranger things have happened. And we are in agreement on the number 1 team. Hail to the football team. Gibson, McLaurin, Ryan Fitzpatrick. You have Logan Thomas, a good tight end. You want to see how to take a quarterback and turn him into a tight end. That's how you do it. And that defense plays. That defense definitely plays. My only concern is Fitzmagic is usually only about 6 games. So
they figure it out.
That's the thing. Like, they need to either get a competent backup if they don't believe in Taylor Heineke, or intersperse Fitzy to where his Fitzmagic is kind of sprinkled over the season instead of like front loaded for the first 6 games. But that's our 4-1. What's your 4-1? Hit us up. FadeRouteMail@gmail.com. Slide in our DMs. FadeRouteDNZ on Twitter or FadeRoute Podcast on IG, and let us know what you think.
This has been the Fade Route with D and Z. Thanks for tuning in tonight. You can usually catch our podcast on Wednesday nights on Anchor, Spotify, or all other premium outlets where you listen to your podcast. Until next time, stay faded, everyone.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Rate us 5 stars, leave us a review, turn on subscription notifications, and tell your friends. Spread the word, spread it wide.